Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So CNN's representative Richard Quest visited Nigeria last week. During his tour in Lagos, he tweeted that Nigeria will have the largest intelligent workforce in the world. The youth of Nigeria are the country's weapon. I've been impressed with the young people I have met. So do you agree with Richard Quest? We have with us Charles Oputa, popularly known as Charly Boy, and Adebayo Raphael with us. Welcome to the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Richard Quest was saying that the youth are Nigeria's best kept secret. And we know online, Oga Charly, that you've been vexing the young people, trying to get young people to actually speak for themselves and to take their destiny into their own hands. As a youth leader, tell us what you to make of Richard Quest's statements saying that Nigeria's youth are the best kept secret we've had.
Well, it's the same all over the world, not just Nigeria. The youth are the future. And you start to wonder what are the youths, how are they organizing themselves to fit into the future. And that is why we came up with the movement called Mumu Don't Do. Because you can't be in charge of that future, you know, if you're just docile, if you're not doing anything, if you're not proactive. And that is what the movement is all about.
I know why you are angry. And
are you not angry?
I am. I was going to say justifiably so.
I think we all are angry.
They call you youth leader at over 60. Our Minister of Youth and Sports, our Minister of ICT are all old people. So truly, our Mumu don't do. We ought to take our destiny back into our hands. But when the young people are impoverished, when we're all running after daily bread, how are we going to be thinking about politics or serving Nigeria or taking our destiny back with empty bellies?
Yeah. Well, you decide whether you want to roll over and die or you want to fight. I know that it is our fault. My generation, the ones that came before us, we made this goof. We did not create an enabling environment for these young people. But that's not to say, I mean, if they don't thief your future, so you go just stay there. You go say because you go to watch, you know, go ask questions. You will not stand up for your right. I mean, who is the idiot?
But let me ask a question. Sometimes I feel that even the youth don't know that they don't thief their future. Because they have kept, you know, I mean, information is far away from us. We don't even know what is even right for us.
The ones not seeking
we don't. Thank you. We don't. No.
It's available.
It's available. It's available. But I'm saying that we don't even know what is right for us. So that is why both of us will sign an agreement that let us go and fight for this thing. Before I say Jack,
they've given
me don't
money.
Go back. Don't go corner for one corner. Go collect something.
Exactly.
And that is what we see play out all the time. So we are not able to stand with one voice.
Of the mind.
So do we even know what we want? I want to come to the young man.
Mr. Raphael.
The thing is that the problem is we have been docile for too long, and this generation of youth, actually, we are very lazy. And that is why today we find it so difficult for us to stand up and demand for what is rightfully ours. Look at what is happening in France. When the right wing and the left wing were still contemplating on who to, you know, put up next for presidential race, the youth wing came up, and we had Emmanuel Macron, who is just 39 years. And our own constitution even says we cannot vie for that position until we are 40. Yes. But the man is 39. So it means that he realized that something has to give. And that is the message we are trying to preach with this movement, that you cannot be docile for too long. Because this is exactly the time when we have to start speaking. This is the time when we must stand up together and fight for what is right. Look at what is happening in the country. The youth are frustrated to the point that they do not see any hope inside, and now they commit suicide.
Can I add to what he just said? If you check the reason why we're in this mess, yeah, you know, past a few people, we don't hold Nigeria for the juggler.
Yes.
That is responsible for this
mess.
Less than 1%. Less than 1%. Now, the people, I am only proud to say that in my lifetime, I've met exceptional Nigerian youth. And I believe that the salvation of this country lies in the hands of the exceptional youths. Okay? So the people will go help, will go sacrifice, will go say, yes, for the love of country. They fit no reach 10.
True.
Okay? So it can't be all on board at the same time.
Right.
But the sensitization has to keep going. Right. And that is why we're involved in that deeply now, for them to understand. Because like you said, we are arrogantly ignorant, especially
I wanted to disagree with Jumoke that it's not because of poverty that we have Nigerian youth, disempowered. It is because we are comfortable. Because we hear all the comedians come out every time to say, now because of poverty, that's why they hustle. And every Nigerian youth has a phone enough to set up a business, but they want to have an iPhone, they want to have everything. Like you said, it's just plain laziness. Mispriorities. Yes. And and it's almost like, as long as they throw us handouts, we are okay. They should just continue ruling. Nigerians don't match out. And I wanted to ask Oga Charly, but how has the response been to this movement? Our Mumu don't do, because I read all the articles and I felt by now at least everybody should be agitated, doing what they should do, contributing their own quota as a youth. How has the response been?
Let me take this call first before we respond. Morning, are you there? Thanks for calling.
Hello, good morning. I'm OWOLABI.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead. OWOLABI, we can hear you. You're live. Go ahead, please.
Area.
Now, area son.
Our Mumu don't do finish.
Yeah, Tete. Don't reach last bus stop.
I really support the movement. God bless you.
Bless you too.
All right.
Okay. She wanted you to answer how has the response been to our Mumu don't do?
Well, very encouraging. Very encouraging. When Two-Face, called for action, yeah? And for one reason or the other, he didn't show up, yeah? But I was pleasantly surprised too that a lot of people still showed up. True. Which means that we are united in this hopelessness, in this frustration, in this poverty, because we all, as we sit here, including people where they watch this thing now, we all could have been doing better than what we're doing now.
Exactly.
So we owe it to ourselves to demand, to hold government accountable, to start asking questions.
Yeah. The right questions.
The right questions.
I was going to say that, so the Nigerian youth who is not lazy, who has a phone, who starts their business, and maybe NEPA or double taxation makes the business fold up, and then Oga Charly now says, oh yeah, our Mumu don't do, let's all go to the street, and we go out. I know that someone like you will stay when they bring out the tanks and all the bullets. Okay, Raphael, will you stay? That's why we don't come out. Because, time over time, we'll be sold out.
Let him tell you about the experience we had when some group of youths invited me to come talk to them. Yeah?
We were in a particular conference in Abuja, and it was all youths. And Father gave a speech, and just after his speech, a senator was to speak after him. And he came with a prepared speech as usual, and was supposed to deliver that speech. But he couldn't.
Why?
He had to buy into the momentum that Father had set, for the discussion. And he ended up saying things that a politician wouldn't have said.
Right. Mr. Raphael, why are you waiting for a father, as you're calling him, to pioneer this movement? Why aren't the 20s and 30-year-olds
the youth need direction? Right. Look at the people look at their elders, look at their leaders. What is there to be learned from people like that?
In addition to that, we've had several movements in this country, headed by youths. But the problem we've always had is that those movements end up being compromised.
My question.
So we need a credible figure to lead a movement like this.
My question is, we have been talking and we'll keep talking, but we are not seeing changes. Because you just said something now that a senator ended up, aligning with what the campaign for the Mumu was about. You understand? So he has finished talking. How do we now make sure that the words that come out of their mouth, they stick to it?
Unfortunately, we can't go further, yes.
No, you were saying?
The only way we can make this happen is for us to now own that responsibility. Because he said something that I did not mention. He said, because he was a former member of the House of Reps. He said since he has been in the House of Reps till now, nobody, not a single person in his constituency has questioned him that, Oga, what have you done for us in
this place? We have to run. I think we'll have a tweet.
Just one. Chiami Yulawa says, an average Nigerian youth isn't interested in nation building. They're only interested in being a celebrity.
Then go chop sand. Then go suffer, then go die in that suffering. If they don't do something, it's their future.
True.
Look at somebody like me. You say, old man.
Old man.
Waiting that they come, they find, but I'm interested in their future. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Thank you very much, Charlie boy. We really appreciate it.
Nice one.
It's May Day. We're celebrating workers. We're celebrating young people have complained that they're unemployed, unemployable sometimes. So it's good that we're having this kind of campaign where young people have to take their own future into their own hands.
Precisely.
Thank you very much for the campaign, and I hope that it's successful. All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, still on the May Day conversation, being a 21st century employee in Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So with the impact of the economic meltdown in Nigeria, the rate of unemployment is said to be on the increase. Regardless of this, companies are increasingly looking for ways to ensure that they have the right workforce. According to trends, a report from business advisory companies, 62% of human resources professionals are using personality tests to vet candidates in hiring process. Joining us is the chairman of the Public Policy and Advocacy Center, Mr. Yomi Fawemi. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, morning, everybody.
You can call us on 070-806-68014. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag Your View TVC so you can read your tweets. Now, young people gaining employment, looking for employment. A lot of companies believe that young people are unemployable. What does that mean?
Well, you know, it's one of those words we throw around in Nigeria. It doesn't really mean anything. There's nobody that is not employable. The question is, your role as an employer is to do two things. Get the guy to work, improve the guy in the process.
Right.
I mean, so it's when you abdicate your second role, you say somebody is non-employable. I mean, everybody here, the guy standing beside the camera 50 years ago was not even born. 25 years ago was unemployable. 5 years ago, maybe you employed him. So the question is, if you know your role as an employer to let people work and develop them in the process, then everybody is potentially employable.
You are touching the very nerve of, what's it called? Most employers these days are not willing to make that sacrifice. They are looking for, that is why they go about poaching people that are already, you know, trained by some other company, that they've invested in some other company. I'll tell you what, for instance now, in the school that I'm trying to get my son into secondary school, they said that over the years, they used to train the teachers, right? They train these teachers and these teachers on leadership to train the students. But they found out that as soon as the teachers are done being trained, they leave. So they reversed it. What they do now is that they train year 7. When they move to year 8, the year 7 children would now train the year 8. So they now allow the children to take responsibility for that training. That employer is not like the employer does not believe in investing in their employees. But sometimes employees as well, you know, they don't have that loyalty. So how do you protect an employer as well?
I have a question based on what she just said. If you're paying the employee a good wage, why would they leave your establishment?
I think we should always remember one of Newton's law of motion. Action and reaction are always equal and opposite. If somebody is disloyal, there's a likelihood that that system encourages disloyalty. So we need to also focus on that. Now, there are employers that say, I train him, he goes. What if you don't train him and he stays?
Exactly.
So the question is the price they are willing to pay, and you have various remedies, and that's why you need to have the right HR professional to help you manage that process. The organizations that train you and in the process ask you to sign a performance bond to say, if you're training for 2 years, you can't go in the next 3 years. But the question is, if you think about that worker as an asset, as the best asset you have, your attitude changes. So all of you here have smartphones and tabs and all of that. So you get a notification that tells you something like, updates your OS, update your, what do you do? Do you argue with that?
No.
Okay, so if you can update your OS on your phones, why can't you update the employee?
Exactly.
And you said that guy is your best hand. So the question is, you must look at it from that point of view. Now, when I know my employer trained me to this point, and I know he's going to get me to the next point, and the next point, and the next point, I will stay.
Exactly.
But if I can't see it tomorrow in my development, then I will go.
Yes.
I will go not necessarily because of better pay, but because of better progress and advancement.
Okay, the economic reality in Nigeria would, might excuse this. I have a quotation from a mentor, RDJ. He says, our people are our most important assets. It's an aphorism that seems to be easily forgotten in financial instability. Now we have financial instability plastered all over everything in Nigeria now. We don't know the price of dollar, we don't know the price of naira. Things are just going everywhere.
Yeah.
Does this encourage an employer to think, okay, let me concentrate on, you know, the things I can control than, you know, build an employee or, you know, keep an employee motivated by payments, workers' welfare, the necessary works, all the, you know. How does this, in this reality...
You create that balance, right?
Yes. How do you create that balance?
So the question is, what do you want to do? I mean, when people talk about workplaces, I always tell people the easiest way for you to relate to a workplace is a football team. So who likes football? Arsenal, Man U. So when the club is going to be relegated and they want to fight regulation, what do? Did they buy new fields?
No.
What do they like to do?
They buy new players.
That's just the point. So the question is a recession things are bad? Do you then fold your hands and improve the computer? You know the funniest thing? If you upgrade a computer or a technology and you do operate the man holding it or managing it, that man is going to bring that technology to the level of himself.
True.
That's why if you buy a car that is high-tech and you have a driver that doesn't know how to use it, what does he do? It drives it like a manual car.
That's all.
So the point is that you must know that the only factor of production, you remember the 4 factors of production, classical economics?
Yeah.
The only one that has a capacity to be creative on his own is labor.
Yeah.
Land is not creative. If you plant yam, it responds. If you plant maize, it responds. But it's only labor that can be creative. So when people say big companies, Amazon and Google, I don't know which one to mention in Nigeria. Anyway, it's not about tools. It's about people.
People.
And when we say Nigeria is in a recession, the worst thing we say about that is the fact that it's economic. No, it's not. It's not the economy that went to recession. It was people's minds that went to recession.
I'll let you, let me ask you, especially because we talk about young people. Charly was here earlier. Young people come to work and they have this sense of, not ownership, they feel like entitlement. You know, I'm starting, you're a fresher, and you have friends that are earning 100,000, 50,000, 200,000, and you don't want to start with a 50,000 naira. You know, they have the sense of, you know what,
I have a BSc,
and once they get that leg in, all they're asking for is once you hire them, they now use your own facility to develop themselves. Either they're on the computers, looking for other jobs, using your own resources. They don't have that commitment to work. I have noticed a lot of young people like that, where they come to work and they'll beg you, and you give them an opportunity, you not get in, and they're already looking for how to use your resources to get the next job. How do you manage this kind of people?
I'm sure when you were employed, somebody felt that about you too. And me and you. That's why they're young. That's why they need mentorship and leadership.
Right.
I mean, why should a young person be committed to work? Why? What's the business case for that? He's young. I mean, so when we blame young people for certain things and we are old, then that means we don't know what it means to be young, or we forgot what happened when we were young. But the point is that that's good. Oh, nice. But you see, there's also a factor of what they call employee engagement, and that means the amount of the connection of the mind, the brain, and the hand to work. Now, the easiest one to do is the hand. All your cameramen are using their hands. They may be using their brains, but they may not use their mind. So the point is that what do you do as an employer to ensure people do that? The latest statistics we have in Nigeria shows that only 13% of workers are engaged. But it's possible. I don't know if you remember one match, World Cup, I think it was Korea, I don't know which of the World Cup, Korea, Japan, I don't know. We're playing a match. Taribo West, I'm sure you remember Taribo West, Pastor Taribo West, was one of the finders, and he had a cut on his head, and he needed to go out and he needed to sew it. You know what happened that match? He went beside and they sewed it without any form of anesthesia. Right on the pitch, they sewed it and they plastered and it came back. That is employee engagement. That's the art. It is not you that will force somebody to have the heart, but you need to create the condition for the person to be willing to commit his heart to it.
I'm happy that you mentioned heart matter, because in Nigeria right now, what employers are looking for is academic qualification. Do you understand? They want foreign degree. Now it's even worse. When you get a master's, it's not just normal master's. Now you have to be a master's from somewhere. And somebody that has been in the system, that has been working, that does the job much, much better, that can even take the company to a whole new level, they relegate that person to the side and they bring in a cockroach that doesn't even understand the job. It's true. I see them like at such sometimes. And the person doesn't even have a clue of what the job is. And they pay that person 10 times more. They're not motivating that employer. I mean the employee rather. That's one. Then number two, because of the craze for, I want an excellent result, so they're looking for a 2-1 and a first-class graduate. A lot of people go to university with one single goal. Get a 2-1 or a first class by all means. And you're talking about youth not being employable. How would they be employable when they don't even have the content inside of them? So how do we correct that?
Okay, so it's a system. You see, sometimes in Nigeria we blame issues and we forget systems produce issues. So what happens when a new government comes in? It changes all the ministers and changes all the head of corporations. It's the same thing. There are people in the organization that can lead the organization, but it's part of our culture. So it's a systemic thing, and that's why they ferry people in all the time. I dare say that if they want to choose a new GM or station, there's likely somebody's going to be ferried in. Because you see it as a systemic issue. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that, okay, so 2-1 first class, many organizations are dropping that now. Many organizations are dropping that. Why? Because it's been saying that what you need in organizations that are based on teamwork, you don't need a single star. You need a system of stars. Now, a system of stars may be all third class, but they're willing to work together. Don't forget Leicester won the EPL last year. Did they have many stars?
No.
So what teamwork is not a collection of stars. It's the capability of the team to work as a team. So if you know that's the kind of environment you want to build, then it doesn't matter. And many organizations are dropping it. But again, the system is reacting to it. And that's why we're having the problem we're having. But come to think again about that employee who is left behind in one organization. And you know sometimes people belly ache and complain. I've stayed here, they've not promoted me. My friend, that is not a symmetry. It's only dead people that don't move. Get away from there and go elsewhere.
Really?
That's just a fact.
I'm feeling this or that.
That's a fact.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break.
High five.
When we come back. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, Jumoke had a question?
So I was going to use myself as an example of an employee who no one in all the places that I worked ever asked me for any of my degrees. And I, believing that in Nigeria, everybody wants a degree, kept on pursuing degree after degree, but along the line of my passion. So they will find me and say, I see that you like doing this. And I just kept on getting employment after employment without ever writing, an employment letter. But what we see in Nigeria today, that as much as we're looking for the person who is, who has the good degrees, the first class and the 2-1, there are lots of employers also who are looking for the person who has the required skill. How does a Nigerian youth become employable?
Let me pause you for a second. I have Victor. Are you still there, Victor?
Hello?
From VI. Hello? Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yes, is this the number for pizza? Pizza, yes.
Pizza?
Excuse me?
Wrong number, girl. Right. So how does a
Nigerian youth become employable?
Okay, so the first question we need to ask ourselves is that, so what is a certificate? A certificate is a proof of knowledge. It is not knowledge.
So you can acquire it anyhow.
Yeah, it's a proof of knowledge. It's not knowledge.
Yeah.
So the question is, we should not focus on the proof. We should focus on the knowledge.
Okay.
That's one part of it. So what does a Nigerian youth have to do? One, you need to know what exactly you are all about. I mean, there are many people who, for example, tells me, I want to go and just do anything. Now, you can't do any work. I mean, it's not going to happen. So the question, you must know what you're about. Secondly, you must understand the requirements of where you're going to. So, for example, you work in the media, there's what they want in the media. There's the knowledge you need to have, broad knowledge, good voice, beautiful looks. I mean, so if you have some things you may not be able to qualify, you must understand that. Then number 3, you must develop a gap assessment. Okay, this is what they want, this is where I am, what do I use to leverage that? And then close the gap. So, and there is, in today's world, this is the best time to close any gap. Go to YouTube and watch the best presenters and mimic them. Get a mirror in front of you and practice. And then you're going to do that. Start to put in your hours. Yes. And it's so free. There's so many free platforms where you can get degrees at no cost. There's now a free MBA online. 0 cost. So the question is, this is not the time to complain. I've had guys that say they want to learn how to become good public speakers. And I'm like, go to YouTube. You watch TED Talks and you repeat what the person has done. And you see yourself moving that light. The last thing I want to say is, don't bother how to start, just start.
Right.
So there are guys, for example, who want to say they want to work in a media house. So you're trying to see how to get to TVC. Come here as an intern and start and do it for free. But do it so well. Let me tell you what's going to happen to you. One of the presenters will be ill one day. And they'll need a 4th person. And they say, oh yeah, you please come and join them. And then you quickly come and join them. And that person becomes ill for a long time and never comes back.
Okay. Let me take this call from Dublin. Thanks for calling. Owoza.
Yeah, hello.
Morning. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I want to speak about our youth. We have to go back to the basics, what we used to do when we were young. You know, the pastors used to preach, or the spiritual leaders used to preach about making heaven or whatever. But this time is about making money and all that. So we have to go back to the basics.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice one.
Okay. I wanted to understand, there's something that bothers me about the most important, because we've talked about human asset being the best asset in any establishment, but we've not talked about the pay. How do you rationalize disproportionate pay where one person is being owed 14 months salary like in the federal government now, or in the government now, and one minister, an appointee of government, is not being owed? The labor minister, for instance, now I'm sure he gets his pay. And within the labor union, we have workers who have not been paid for 13 months. Pensioners who have not been paid. Even there's a private establishment presently whose productivity bonus was shared among just a few members of the establishment, and the major workforce, the people below, were told to keep quiet. It was online about it, not to talk about that particular bonuses being shared. So how do we help me to understand the role of payments, salaries, wages, and motivation in workforce?
I think it's important for us to ask ourselves a couple of questions. One, do you have professionals managing your human resources management department? So that's why we always recommend let guys who are chartered and have the certificates from Chartered Institute of Personal Management to be the ones who run your HR work, because they ensure you get paid. It's possible for an organization not to be able to pay. Maybe they're not making profit. Don't forget, the pay does not come from heaven, it's from profit.
Yeah.
So then, but one of the things professionals will do is that they call everybody to meet and say, listen, we have not made profit in the last quarter, what can we do? And they can have ideas. Somebody could say, okay, instead of paying us full salary, why don't you pay half salary? Or why don't you allow us to work from home? Or why don't you allow us, you can have all those creative solutions and all of that. But talking about people not being paid for a while, there's a special, one government official who, for example, they asked him on TV just a couple of days back that you are owing 14 months. He said, no, it's not 14 months, it's 12 months. So it's becoming culturally acceptable to know. The question you need to ask are, what are those employees doing? How do you come to work for 12 months without a pay and you come every day? There's something wrong.
You are stealing from the
organization. You have a side business of corruption established.
Sorry, the last point I wanted to
steal, you just have a side business.
The last point I wanted to make, and that's my request to people that talk about labor unions and all of that, is somebody needs to take somebody to court once in this country for not paying salaries.
Just once.
Because don't forget, one of the things that the Constitution guarantees you is your right to life. And so if somebody does not pay you and your livelihood is threatened, then you can potentially go to court and get a court to say it is wrong not to pay people. We had a case in Lagos. Some people were wrongly ejected for where they were living. They went to court. The court pronounced that forceful eviction is a crime against the Constitution.
Yes.
Never done before, unprecedented. So somebody also needs to take that up with not being paid. And then the court could say, once it's after 3 months, it becomes a violation of his livelihood. And then you can sue, jail that minister who doesn't pay your salary.
I hope that that person taking the company to court is doing their work, Sha.
Please, because labor is fighting for, they are fighting for increment of salary. In your opinion, based on what is happening, because when I hear 18,000 naira minimum wage, it just irks my spirit, you know, because I don't understand how, is it transportation cost or is it feeding that 18,000 will cover? What do you think an ideal pay should look like as a minimum wage for the Nigerian youth?
That's a scary question to ask.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so what are the factors that determines pay? 1, your contribution to the organization, right? 2, your output. 3, the multiplier effect of the organization. So, for example, a teacher teaching in a school will earn less than the teacher in another school because of the multiplier effect of the organization. And then competitive pay. What does your competitors pay? 18,000 is significantly low. And I think we need to talk about increasing it. But I feel we are discussing only one side. Are we talking about the productivity of the Nigerian
whoa!
So let me give you an instance. When I was in primary school, for example, I went to school and I came home and I played and I went to sleep. So my father had money paying my teacher who was the school fees. In today's world, when you send your child to that same private school, you still need to get a private teacher. And then somebody to prepare for WAEC. Then somebody to go for summer coaching. Then somewhere to teach him how to swim. Then somebody to teach him how to do this. It's still the same pocket. So what has happened in the case of my dad then, he was paying one person for my education. So maybe he was paying $100. Now you're paying 5 people. You still have $100. So what do? You pay $20 because you just got $100. So that worker, is it getting more productive? Is his result increasing? No. If it is not, then the basis for saying should be paying more. Payments should have a fair concept, should also have a market-driven response. So you just don't say, oh, this is what is fair. It's a question of what is this guy doing? I don't get it that the state governments in Nigeria have so many workers. I don't know what
bloated workforce.
All right, unfortunately,
they are trying to create employment. Casey says both government, private sectors and workers need to change and overhaul their perception towards service. There's need to review. Abimbola says Mr. Yomi Faweimi is doing justice to the topic, and in this speaking the truth, a lot of people won't accept. Prince says professionals like your guest, Mr. Faweimi, is scarce and unpopular. Nigeria needs more of him. Does he have a website? Larry says our leaders are the main problem behind all of this, like David Mark, who abandoned his youth.
Okay, we have to rush up. Unfortunately, we can't take any more comments. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on this issue of workforce. I think I have more information now as an employee. So my employers will be hearing from me. I'm just joking. That's all we can take on the show. Thanks for joining us. Have a lovely day. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.